Welcome back. This is 2 of the introductory videos for OMBA 580. And in this video, which will be a little bit longer, we'll be talking about each of the individual assignments that will be required during the course. Before I begin, let me mention that I had 3 kids and I only told about 2, so I should mention my third son, who just turned 23, is a recent graduate of Baker's College of Arts and Sciences in Baldwin City. He majored in exercise science, and he's now taking additional courses that he needs to enter graduate school to pursue either a physical therapy or a physician's assistant kind of credential. So I'm very proud of him and the work that he's done at Baker. As far as the individual assignments for our class goes, I must start with the leadership self-assessment. This is the assignment that is due in week 2 of the course. And it basically asks you to answer the 12 questions that are posed beginning on page 28 of First Break All the Rules from the perspective of someone that you either are currently leading, have led in the past, or if you don't have leadership experience, project into the future and describe how you feel someone whom you might lead in the future would answer those 12 questions regarding you. So it's a little bit tricky, and it's not you rating your company or you rating your boss on the 12 questions. It's you rating yourself from the perspective of someone that you've led in the past, are currently leading, or might someday lead. Now, this can be either from the perspective of someone you've led at work and the organization that you currently work for or worked for previously. It can be from your prior experience, like school or the military, or even outside activities, like if you've led a scout group or a junior league project, or have coached a team perhaps for one of your kids, or a team at school. So it just has to be from the perspective of someone that you've led in the past, are currently leading, or might someday lead. That's the key. And you're going to rate yourself on each of those 12 questions, first with a numerical score from 1 to 5, with 5 being highest, and then with a brief explanation as to why you think the person whose perspective you're represented as you answer the questions would have assigned that rating to you. For example, if someone were rating me, or if I were rating myself from the perspective of someone rating me, for the question it has to do with, do I have what I need to get the job done, for example, I might answer, I would rate Dan a rating of 4 on this item. And the reason is that on a day-to-day basis, Dan does a good job of ensuring that we have everything we need to do our jobs well. But on occasion, we find out about new software or other fairly pricey acquisitions that we'd like to have that are above Dan's pay grade to approve. And when he takes them forward, he often meets with resistance from upper management due to the impact that they have on the budget. And I don't feel that he does the very best possible job of representing how useful those things could be to us. In other words, fight for us and help us get those things. So aside from the things that are outside of his direct control, Dan does a good job, so I rated him 4, but we think that there might be more he could do to help us with things that have to be escalated. Does that help you with an example of how this might work? If you have any doubts, send me a response to one of the questions as an email, the way you intend to write it in your paper, and I'll write right back and tell you whether or not I think you're right on or not. The questions 1 through 12 get progressively, quote, harder as you go. That is, the authors have broken the questions up into what they call camps. The metaphor is for climbers climbing a mountain, having a base camp, and then camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, and eventually the summit. And of course, those of you that have done any of that kind of outdoor activity know that unless you're acclimated at the base camp and at Camp 1 and at Camp 2, it makes it very difficult to go on to the higher camps and finally achieve the summit. So as I look at your self-assessments that you'll be turning in week 2, if I see a lot of 1s and 2s on early questions, I'd expect not to see a lot of 5s on later questions because the questions are cumulative. They build on one another, and unless you have high ratings on the lower questions, it would be really difficult to imagine that your employees would rate you highly on those more complicated questions that require the foundations of the lower questions. There is, by the way, an example of an A self-assessment paper posted at our Moodle site. So if you'd like to see what a good paper looks like, you can go there and there's an example for you. And finally, I often get asked, can I actually ask my employees, my current, those that I currently lead, how they would rate me on each of these questions? Yes, you can. But if you decide to do that, please let me know because I have to file an institutional review board, IRB, approval for your using interviews in conjunction with a Baker course. So it's very important we get the IRB approval before you conduct any interviews. So if you intend to go that route, be sure you get your company's approval and be sure that you advise me so that I can get IRB approval. Once I have that approval, it'll count for everyone and we won't have to get separate approvals should we be interviewing others during the rest of the course. Second is probably the biggest assignment of the course. It's due in week 6. Second item in the syllabus, it's the Leadership Development Plan, or LDP. Basically, the LDP is a summary of what you've learned in this course about leadership and what you intend to do as the course ends and you continue to develop your leadership skills and knowledge. I put a detailed outline of my expectation for this important paper on page 2 of the syllabus. Follow it closely. Be sure to list all the elements of your plan, and fewer elements are better. If you have 18 elements, it's going to be very hard to accomplish all of them. If you have 3 to 5, it's much more likely that you'll be able to accomplish them and move forward. And be sure before you close out your leadership development plan that you tell me how you're going to evaluate your progress on each of the initiatives that are a part of your plan and how you'll revise your plan as you grow and expand your leadership skills and your leadership plan from this course becomes obsolete. And again, there's an example of an A paper, an A LDP at our Moodle site for you to review. Third, there will be an additional book report due, a book review due in week 6, and it's on a book you select, and it can be either done on paper as a traditional book review, or this is one of those assignments I talked about in video 1, where you might choose to do a YouTube video to present your review of your book. First, go to the Leadership Book Club list that's posted at our Moodle site. There are over 100 books there, so you won't have any trouble finding several I'm sure that you'd like to consider. Then go to a site like Amazon.com and plug in the titles and authors and learn a little bit about the books. Sometimes you can even see the table of contents and even read a few pages or as much as a chapter of a book. And then if you're sure you've made up your mind, go to the discussion board that I've set up for the Leadership Book Club book selections. Check first to see that no one else has already picked the book you want to read. And then follow the example I've posted. Put the author of the book and the title of the book in the subject line, and in the text of the message just put something like my book selection, and you're done. That list will become the one that I use to produce what I call a further interest reading assessment that you will use as you review everyone else's reviews during week 6 to indicate what your level of interest is in sometime eventually reading some or several of those books once, of course, you finished your MBA program and you have a bit more leisure time to pursue reading of your choice. Next, each week a weekly article review has been assigned to 2 or 3 students in the syllabus. On pages 3 and 4, your name is beside the article that I'd like you to find, read, and review for us during the week that your name appears. The details of what you should include in your review are all on page 5 of the syllabus. And again, this is an assignment that can either be written and posted at the discussion board, or you can choose to record and post a link to or embed a YouTube type video like this one to present your report. And they will be due by Wednesday of the week that you are assigned to present your report, and everyone will be required to read your reviews and post a comment on at least one of them by midnight on Sunday of each week. The next assignment is a really exciting one. It's an ethics or corporate social responsibility case study. It will be due by midnight on Wednesday of week 5, and it's described in detail on page 5 of our syllabus. Basically, I want you to do one of 3 things. Either identify a real example of an ethical or corporate social responsibility opportunity that you've observed in your current organization, or perhaps one that you previously were associated with, and choose that as the opportunity that you will develop a plan for correcting, and following the outline on page 5 of the syllabus, develop a case study to present to your teammates. Second choice is to research an example of an ethical corporate responsibility opportunity that an organization other than yours has addressed. Perhaps this is one that you research on the internet, like the accusation that Nike's making shoes abroad in sweatshops, or that design dressmakers are having their garments made in slave wage situations in third world countries. These are the kind of things I have in mind. Perhaps a pollution example where your company has moved its polluting operations to countries with more lax environmental standards than we have in the United States. Those are the kinds of things that you might look for in the literature and critique and choose to develop a plan for. And third, if you neither have any examples from your own experience of an ethical or corporate social responsibility opportunity for improvement, you can make one up, just like those in class 2 who had to write about a person that they might lead in the future, kind of had to make up what they assumed that person might say about them in response to each of the 12 questions. Likewise, if you choose this third option for the case study, you can make up a case study that poses a realistic sounding ethical or organizational dilemma and then resolves it with a plan that you develop. If you follow the bullets in the syllabus and produce a plan that addresses the opportunity, the bottom line should be it leads to the sustainability of the business, its impact on our society, and its impact on our environment. And notice that that assignment ends, not incidentally, with a very important aspect, and that is the development of your own personal code of conduct, which you'll include at the very end of your case study. And your code can either be a paragraph, or it can be bulletized, or it can even be a single sentence that to you summarizes the moral compass or the test or the code that you will fall back on in making ethical and corporate social responsibilities throughout your career and hopefully throughout your lives. Post those individual assignments by Wednesday of week 5, and then each team should read each other's case studies, and as a team decide on which case you feel would be best for the entire class to have a chance to review. And then each team should post the case that they like best from among their members by midnight on Sunday of week 5, so that everyone will have an opportunity to read the cases for each of the teams, one each, by the end of the class at midnight on Sunday of week 6. Next, there is an influence assignment, and that again is from the book on influence, gaining commitment and getting results. It will be during week 4, and each student will read the influence booklet and complete the self-assessment on pages 17 to 19 and chart their core and supplemental tactics that they identify by completing the self-assessment on page 20 of the booklet. Now, I would recommend that before you take the self-assessment that you photocopy the pages 17 to 19 and page 20 so that you can do your self-assessment on the copy and keep your original to make more copies. I believe that influence is situational, and you may influence with a style of influencing techniques that are very different if you're influencing up, say to a boss, or across to say a peer, or down to say perhaps someone that you lead. So I think because influence tactics are situational, it would be interesting to save blank copies of your self-assessment form so that you can use them later for another situation in which you applied influence to analyze the influence tactics that you fell back on in that situation. It's an ungraded assignment, but many MBA 580 students over the years have told me that completing this self-assessment and learning to ratchet up some of the tactics that they showed they used less often in the example that they documented when doing the self-assessment has been one of the most valuable takeaways from the course, and nearly everyone includes something about their influence self-assessment in their leadership development plan that's due in week 6. Well, this ends my video 2 and our overview of the individual assignments for the class. I hope that this has helped clarify some of those assignments and make it possible for you to do the very best job of meeting my expectations for them. If not, be sure to use the methods I'll be talking about in video 3 to contact me to clarify expectations or to run examples of what you are thinking of submitting by me. Next, as your time permits, please view video 3. It's a little briefer and it's on the team assignments for the course. And I'd also appreciate it if you complete viewing this video, that video 3, before you begin any of the assignments in the course. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll look for you in viewing video 3.